Hello, everyone. Good morning. All right, about to share my screen. And I should be able to see something. Perfect. I see a couple of thumbs. So, thanks again to everyone joining in this session today. This session will be about rapid AI prototyping from concept to a functional product. And actually, it is a part of a three-parter series with two more parts coming up in the next couple of weeks. Number two will be held by my colleague Michael Lavler. Will be actually next week already, where we will take things even further than today. Instead of creating just the first prototype, we'll also planning the functional logic for it and to make a functional code of it, a productive code of it. And the very last session held by our Florian Esmer, CTO of Pradina, will be in 2 weeks from now, March 25th, which we will share on how to build actually production ready code and to show this with all the different stages that apply. Myself, I will host today's session, and my name is Martin Kaiser. I'm a managing product designer at Pradina, AI design lead, and I'm with Pradina for almost 10 years now, Frankfurt based, and happy to share with you today's approach about our session. Now, where do we start at? I would like to start with a rather complicated phase plan, which is almost a relic of the past, because as you can see, this is really the classic approach in how to really start with building digital products in the very first place. And we have done so many times. You don't need to, I think, see and understand all the details of this, but you probably know many items of this timeline of a process plan, meaning once you are kicking off with an idea, an ideation about a certain product or a certain feature, you probably start out with building like site outline. You come up with different approaches on how to navigate your target groups. You create wireframes. You create really all of these increments and elements that are just there to really save on money for the later phase, because you would want to really be sure that the road you are going down is validated, and you won't be spending too much money when it comes to implementation at the very later points here at stage. This is why you make smaller increments, are building upon many elements, and really make sure that all stakeholders are involved, the users are involved, and therefore there have been many steps in the process plan. Now, however, with the reveal of like AI toolings and AI functionalities, we figured out that really this happens. So, especially when kicking off with new digital products, we figured out that there's a huge impact compression-wise. AI capabilities really compress all of these different steps, especially at the beginning, and lets us really skip steps, but also fast forward much faster in building digital products, and especially in creating those really valuable first prototypes that can be taken to validate them with the end users, stakeholders, to get buy-in, but also to get a really good estimation on how the actual product might function and might look like in the end. Um, as things get very compressed now at these stages here, I've prepared a little something, and I'm going to really start out just kicking off a few things in the background so they can be running while we still talk. And we will return to actually the prototypes that are building the button later on. So for that, I've created three little Figma Make projects, and I've already put a prompt into it. And I will just let them run for a couple of minutes until the front end really is built. and afterwards explain what is actually happening and what use case we are building today. I'm also choosing different models for that. So for the first one, we have Cloud Sonnet 4.6. Let this run. We have also Opus 4.6. So let this run just for comparison it on, so we can see actually which one will perform maybe with less errors or with a better front end in the end. And we also have Gemini 3.1 Pro. Also let this run and return to our presentation where we can talk about the actual offer or the actual approach that we introduced mid of last year already, and our take and our approach on this one, on how we are going to tackle this compression or this leverage through AI-powered services is we are offering a rapid AI envisioning and prototyping workshop. Parts of it I'm going to show today. Parts of it will be shown also in the next couple of weeks. So this workshop is really consisting of a three-step principle, which lets us and lets you come to a really validated prototype. It requires some sort of context or information ahead of the workshop, which can be narrowed down to really just 15 minutes of stakeholder questionnaire input. Then we're going to have a workshop day, which can be also split in two. It will be 6 to 8 hours, and then there will be the post-workshop, actually the part where we can really provide you with documentation about what has been discussed in the workshop, but also with an implementation plan and a recommendation on how to get things further and how to get the digital product on the road. You will also get an estimation, and you get something at hand really that you can take further and really validate with stakeholders to get buy-in, but also with real end users to get their take on, is this really a solution for their problem, for their initial problem? What are the benefits of this approach? It's really, really fast to get with this approach to the actual market, because this is very little time to create prototypes like this. As I mentioned, you're very fast with this to get stakeholders buy-in, but it's also an architecture-informed design. It leverages Gen AI on many, many points in the process, as you will see today. And also, and this is still the thing that has been an argument in the past as well, it is about still risk mitigation, meaning having a prototype that is validated early on, so you actually can be sure that implementation is feasible and is not going into the wrong direction. Now, the big question is, how does this separate from typical vibe coding? And you've probably seen those animations of those little AI toys all over LinkedIn, as we posted those a couple of weeks ago already. So the main difference really is vibe coding starts very simple with, I think, little input information, little context given, and also iterates in very small steps, I would say, whereas our approach really builds on specifications and the input. I will currently show next, which is quite decent and very much specified to the goal that we are going to really make use of the prototype, the outcome of it, and take it further to actual the implementation of productive code in an enterprise environment. With that, let's just jump into the use case for today. So we created a little fictional briefing from a German company that is building or manufacturing adhesive products called Kleb. And the scenario is that a operational professional needs to bond a natural rubber adhesive with a material thickness which is possibly very, very small or very low. And the challenge is that instead of really looking through hundreds of catalog items, because there are many, many products in these adhesive industry sections, there should be a product finder in place, which really enables him to find just the product that he is looking for. And in an ideal world, he would be able to also book an appointment with the sales expert or to get a quote for the products of interest. With that, typically, and this is very little input to really start with prototyping. Therefore, we're going to the step that we are going to ask additional questions. And as you can see, this can be done with as little effort as just a Microsoft Forms survey, as we have done so in the past as well. And it's just about getting really a very good understanding about the actual problem to solve. Who are the target users? Um, what is the overall context? Which potential user flows are there to be really taken into account? And what should be the targeted outcome? How to really speak to the users, and which other guidelines need to be mentioned? In this case, and we made this up as a mock data, we can really see that we got like filters, we got filter options, and we got products. Those come into very large JSON files. And I'm just at this point going to jump fast forward and just show you one possible solution that we prompted earlier on how that might look like. Again, the use case is that a professional really is able to dive through many products, narrowing down his criteria to really get the product he needs. So it could look something like this. We have the company logo on the top left corner, and we see already that there are many products in the system. It's not so much about showing nice images of product, and it's really their properties that matter in the end. So if I would adjust some sliders here and trying to narrowing down um, to specific product features, I can also get into the filters, search for black products only. I can really see that things already get narrowed down, and I can also access additional filters, maybe to add some more. Maybe we can just pick like an acrylic material, apply this, and we can see that things get narrowed down. So on the right-hand side, we can also see that there is information about the product properties itself. So this one also has been pulled in, and we can also see that there's a consultation function available. We can see that there's a sales engineer. I can pick time and get into an appointment with this one. Would have been good if I would have also to be entered or to be required to enter an email address, but we can prompt for this in our current approach for today. So let's just take a quick look on how things are going. Things are just also still implementing. We'll just see how which one will be the first actually to proceed from the models. And while we are doing so, let's just quickly also show about the initial prompt. So when we have collected the data, not only from the stakeholders, but also from actual meta experts, but also from those people responsible for the internal IT of this client, we get this raw information. They have a little Microsoft Copilot in place, which extracts these kind of informations and puts it into a master prompt for us that we can really use to start a prototype. It could be Figma Make, it could also another tool, being capable of building front ends or prototypes with agents. And the information that is really relevant for us and we want to put in to this very first prompt is about context. We want a description about the target solution. We want a description about the target users. So are there different target groups eventually? Which are the user flows, meaning selecting filters, for example, searching for product names, narrowing down, then going into a selection, seeing the product details, but also in the end being able to just contact an expert. We are interested in the tone of voice about the application, and we are interested into the guidelines. And also what is needed as a database, potentially we can store into Superbase. And that use case we're showing today or preparing for today, those were these little JSON files I showed earlier that I put there and made accessible. So let's just have a look on also the master prompt. So as we can see, Gemini 3.1 has already finished and Sonnet 4.6 is still running, same as Opus 4.6. So we can have a look at this one in a couple of minutes, maybe just go into the very code base of this one again. Um, as you can see, I think there are also, yeah, there's some things still running as well, here as well, but we can actually, let's have a look on the actual inputs of the guidelines here. What I mentioned earlier is that we want to have system guidelines. So system guidelines are guiding the agent to really build the project. We can set up a design system in here already. And we can also define on how different things are going to be treated. For example, how to treat with the filters, the mapping of filters and so on. But also, which is important for us, is to create a product that is also usable in terms of accessibility standards. So we have a guideline markdown that also puts the guardrails for the accessibility standard. And we want to have our design tokens to be used that are also part of the design system that we are going to use. For this use case today, we have chosen for just a Chatcien component system, but this can be any design system that can be attached either as code components, but also as really design tokens that we can also import later on. I can show this as well. And let's also have a look at the very first prompt that we put into the system. This is rather small, but it just yeah, repeats the same information I mentioned earlier. So we are telling the system about the context, we're telling the system about the target solution. And this is really Copilot enhanced or enriched, this very first prompt, but you can see it's not a one or two liner that we're getting into the system, because we want really a very detailed front end, a very detailed prototype that is really capable of handling the complexity of a use case as such. You can see the user flows already lined out, and we can see the behavior of the filters. We can also see just a very little block about the quiet tone of voice, then also a link to the actual guidelines. All right, let's just review maybe what is there already. So we can see Gemini 3.1 still is also running. 4.6 needs another trigger point, and I think it's finished by now. So we should see the front end of this one very soon, and it's there. All right. So let's just head over to like the solution that the agent has provided. In this case, I think they're still building, as I can see from the left-hand side, but let's just go and see what he's coming up with. We can see that we have many of our products, should be like over 700 in the system. You can see that those are being really shown here, and we can see that we have different filters that can be applied. There's a card version of the whole thing, and we can also like limit down certain values, certain filter values. We can see the temperature rate, teeth and strange is also there. Looks pretty good so far. Maybe the thing that I would be missing from a UX perspective is an additional view about like a table view. So cards tend to take a lot of space in the screen. So table view would also be nice to have this one in place. We have a sorting function, as I can see here, and I just cannot click on those. I think since the agent is still running on the left-hand side, a couple of fixes that can be done, but let's head over and see what the others are providing. Then we see the results of Sonnet 4.6. We can go into the product finder for this one as well. It offers sort of a card navigation in the very first place. So ask about what's the actual application, so we can have like a narrowing down on certain categories as well, which is quite nice. I like this. Maybe go with this option here, and then what is the primary subject? I'm going for maybe a bar. And what is the second one? Let's just say. And then we see also what performance matters most. I think in this case, I'm choosing for chemical resistance and products. And then we can see that he already also made up product images, which are not maybe applicant for these kind of things, but at least it came up with a couple of product options here as well. Let's just maybe even further narrow down with some filtering. Sure, but the filters are going to be placed in this application just yet. So I can start over. So it goes over categories in this example here, right? So I could start over and just see how things are getting narrowed down on this one. All right, that's good. Let's also just test how this one is being implemented when I try to talk to a specialist. Seems to not work until now, but maybe that's also because he's just really building out stuff and is not very much finished. Let's head over to Gemini. Also set the product finder on this one. Interesting, he also came up with a category approach. Let's try these. And maybe it makes sense to select steel. And what's the environment? Select outdoor, going to results. What is the application error? Let's say construction. Interesting. It seems like he is stuck in a loop. Right. This one is still building, and this one should also be finished by now. All right, so I think out of all of the different solutions provided now with these approaches, I'm going to go with this one provided by Opus 4.6. And I'm really not sure at this point whether the actual JSONs have been really implemented. So I'm going to check for this one again. See if my Superbase is connected for this project. It is for this one. And now I would just be collecting really improvements for the system, as we would do also in the workshop together. So the exercise really is to get all stakeholders with their opinions, but also meta experts with their opinions, with their feedback, in sitting at one table and iterating on this prototype together. Same approach also paired with our UX approaches, how we can actually yeah, also improve on the UX and usability side of things. I've seen I got just the hint that there are some questions in the chat. Um, Maybe it's good to just head over and see, check upon those. Right. All right. I can quickly answer this one. So the purpose of using different models is just for your very first setup. You would really want to start with a good base before you go into a workshop. So you set up this very first um, stage of the prototype and decide then which one has provided the best outcome, the thing that would really fit your needs probably best. This is just from a product designer view, but also um, really ties with the I would say the very first prompt that you put into the system. It's just about testing different models, and that in that case it was just about which one is faster than the other, which one provides the outcome which requires less rework or less iteration probably in a workshop. And I think this is the reason for it. And it turns out for me, at least from my perspective, Opus 4.1 really nailed it to degree that we can really say, okay, this is more like a B2B application, and it really needs less iteration, also in a workshop context, so we can get to the result even faster. And the second question, what are the best practices in creating a prompt? How do you structure it? I think I've tackled this one already. So we are really getting into or analyzing our initial requirements and also the raw data that we got from the client, meaning JSONs, context information, who are the target groups, and so on. And then we created a copilot that really produces or enriches all of this information from the very raw data into this master prompt here. I'm not sure why it's not available on this one. Right. Maybe just go to this one. And this is about really extraction. So we prompt our Copilot agent to really extract these kind of informations with the actual goal to create an interactive prototype in a Gen AI environment. This is the goal for this prompt. And it should follow really these structures or these elements and create those descriptions for me, because it's very hard or very tedious to really write down all these different specifications. You definitely need to check upon those. But I think just the formulation or description for all of these like inputs for prompts is very tedious. This is why we're using Copilot, enhancements or enrichment for this initial prompt. The next prompts, I think, for actual products can go a bit less descriptive or a bit less lengthy, so we can make sure that we're getting fast iterations in a workshop context. Hope this answers the question. All right, let's just see on how we can improve on this approach here. So I said we're going for this Opus 4.6 approach. And first thing I'm seeing is that we could actually use this table view as well. Also, I'm not really sure um, if the product information really has been pulled in, since I only see like 12 products, and we definitely have more in our system. So I'm going to just collect all the things I want to see in the application, and let's structure these as well with numbers. So first, check if my products, filters, and options for filters have been loaded correctly from the Superbase. There's a number. There should be many more options and also product properties I can filter for the system. So this is a fix, basically. Then, as I can see, there are 3 warnings. I'm also going for fix all the warnings. I'm going for number 3, which would be about the table view, potentially. Introduce another table view for seeing the products that are matching to the filters. But maybe also in default and that are matching to the filters. And then I'm also interested in about the comparison. Probably can just add those little products into comparison mode, and really that's quite neat already. So I can really compare those different properties in case I'm not sure really which are the differences. So obviously for this one, there are some deviations in the temperature ranges and so on. What would be nice is really to see the difference. In this case, they are really uh, differing in a lot of points. So I think it does not make sense to really highlight just the differences as they are different in many points. So keep this as it is. But maybe it makes sense still to also get the contact, which I'm currently not seeing at this point. Right, so contact could be a thing that also needs to be added to the system still. And therefore, I'm also introducing this contact function. I have an image to make the contact actually a bit more personal. So I will add just an image of a person I've generated before this session, and I say introduce a contact function. I want to be able to contact a sales expert and also get suggestions when he is available. For that function, I would need to put in my email address and name and get an invitation to an appointment. So this is my email address that has been recognized here. I'm taking this out. And my email address. Okay, so that's good for now. Let's give it a run and see how things are building out. So we can just return and see about the iterations on this one. While this is still updating, I'm returning back to the actual workflow and just show how the next things are going to be assembled here in this case. So as I mentioned earlier, we have already taken in a coded library, and it was a ready-made coded library in this case called ChatCN. We installed this via npx, but it can be actually any other design system or coded library that is already in place that you can leverage and use within Figma Make. So this is just a placeholder, if you will. But we can also see in Figma Make we are also leveraging those guidelines I've shown earlier, And we are also aiming for accessibility guidelines and also for our standard for the design token guidelines. Design token guidelines are really part of the W3C definitions, and we want to make sure that this is also matching with our Figma design system. So I'm just heading over to our Figma design system, which also have the W3C standard inhibited. You can see the representation of the design components here. And if I head over to the variables of this project, you can see that the different groups also adhere to the W3C standards. For this example, I've already added another brand color. So this wasn't in before. Just for the sake of doing a slight iteration on this one, we're going to also add the brand color to the system, which has been picked actually already from the logo. If we can remember, I think this one has the SVG already the brand color within. And this has been picked up, I think, at a couple of points here in the system, at least for the other prototypes. I saw this. Yeah, right. So the agent has picked this color already up and put it as a primary color at some points. Um, so this obviously got extracted already, but I also put this into our variables in the design system. What we need to do really to keep the system in sync, meaning to have our components within Figma Make synced to our design system, is we are using VS Code to actually do the design token extraction and the component mapping. And in doing so, we are heading over to VS Code, starting up our MCP servers. We have the Figma MCP server, we have the design system MCP server that has knowledge about design systems, and we have the Figma console MCP, also starting this one. And this needs to be connected to the actual design system of Figma. Going to set up the Figma bridge so we know this is really running. And with this tab collected, I'm going to do the token extraction that we want to get into our Figma Make. So the latest updates really for the tokens should be extracted from this design system. And this is something link, I think, so far it needs to be mapped to the actual components. So I'm just really doing this real quick. It should be connected at this point. So I have a little prompt that says act as a design system engineer and extract those design tokens from my Figma file, get the variables, and also map them those to the components, create me a JSON object in the end that I can later on digest within Figma Make, but also hand over to development later on. So I'm doing this. In the meantime, let's head back to our application. So as you can see, it's still running, which brings me to a point, an important point of the actual workshop, which is things are going to run in parallel. As you see with this approach here, it's always about iterating, adding new, I would say, insights to the system. And on the other side, clarifying important questions, for example, about the actual system landscape that the client is in or the architecture he wants to use, he is required to use. So we're doing this in a tandem motion, meaning we have a design stream iterating on the prototype, reflecting on the actual user needs, on the stakeholder needs for the system. And we have an architecture stream considering all the different requirements that the system later on will adhere to or the product needs to be built upon. And this is very important for the next steps when the handover finally is done towards the GitHub, and we are collecting all the information together through the workshop for the documentation, so we really can create this implementation strategy. Let's just wait a couple of minutes, I think, for this latest update here. Head just back to the very last part for this one. I just see in the background that the design tokens have been extracted. I'm just looking to the JSON file for this, and it should be there a little bit bigger, so I can really see all those different, tokens have been written into that file, and we can also see that they have been mapped actually to the components. So this one is ready. And as a next and final step, assuming that we are happy with the outcome of the actual prototype, I would really import also this design tokens JSON file into the actual prototype, make it applied so we can have like the new brand color here and the prototype already visible and adhered to the primary buttons, as I have defined for some states of the primary buttons as well. And then this is really part of also the handover to a development. The way this tokens are being integrated is just, and I'm showing you this in this other prototype I've prepared. There's the design system manifest as a JSON, and when we look into this one, we can see all the different variables, but also when we search for a certain value, like a button, can really see that those values really have been applied to the components and also mapped to components, which is important for our application to know which part of the design system actually applies to which component that we're using. All right. Opus is still building out things. Let's just also in the meantime go into some further testing. Let's just see, okay, typing here is not finding the relevant product, potentially because those are not being fully implemented in all 700 are fully implemented. Really like this detailed view already. I think also for this one, there are more properties that needs to be mapped here. See what happens when I click technical data sheet is not an option here at this point. Let's also see contact sales here is not yet linked, but it will be potentially in the next iteration of this one. All right, click to the logo already also works, which is nice. Let's see about the behavior of this category again. And it really already narrowed down the number of options here. I think there would be many, many more as we've input those into the JSON files. And this is really a thing of getting the insights from the actual meta experts, as it would be during a workshop. For example, if we have hundreds of filters, how should we know which of those filters should be shown at the very first or very top positions of the application? We need to ask them. So either we can clarify this question in the workshop already, or we're going to make a best guess out of their knowledge, out of their expertise, and really putting this question to a later point in time where we are implementing the user test. And we can actually ask for the priority of things. So which filters should be shown first, which elements especially also should be shown on the results of the different products here, meaning which are the relevant indicators so you know at a glimpse this is the right product, and this is what you've been looking for to pick really the solution for yourself, and what else would be required to get even faster to the result that you're looking for. There might also be some additional input options needed. So, for example, you could ask for categories like in the other approaches. So, I think there could be something like a pick and mix out of these different options, as you can see, and this might also be a reason for going with different models in the very first place. You can see that those two are interestingly put it like cards, so you can filter by category. So this in the end could also be approach or a different approach to this application. So it not only be required to search or use filters, but also could use like a categorization for this approach as well. So it could be some sort of pick and mix as well in the end. In regards to time, and since this one is still building out things and putting in all the data, I think we've come to version 4 now, which is would be just in time. And there are some errors going on, trying to fix these. I'll just show on how to get the outcomes of this prototype now back to our developers or to prepare things for development. And this is while leveraging our GitHub connection here. So we are pushing this whole repository actually with all the different elements of it, meaning we are having the guidelines into it, we are having the design tokens in it, and we have the design system manifest. This is the JSON file that I extracted from our Figma master. And more importantly, even, I have created also with an additional prompt the user stories for this whole prototype. So once the prototype has been really validated within the workshop, or even afterwards within a separate user test, we can really create the user stories from this prototype and therefore create a better start or a better handover for the actual implementation should this prototype be the very first starting point for a productive code. And when we look into this other folder, handover to dev, we can see that there's a project overview being created. And I've prompted for this really just in the same window where I prompted also the different system updates. So we can see a project overview, which also has the initial context in. So anyone else also dealing with this application or this code knows about the different requirements and the context. We are also referring already to our guidelines and also the design tokens at this point. Then let's have a look also on the user stories. I've decided to create different sections for the user stories. So one should be about the overview of the page. One should be about more filters, meaning going into more depth of the filter levels. There are additional ones about the product details. So could be a separate page, and also the contact sales expert module, which is a different thing on how to get into contact. And finally, our design system token reference. So how are these things going to be implemented? With the push to GitHub, we really get this also displayed in the repository, which would be looking something like this. So we see the handover to dev. We can see all the code that has been created, in this case by Figma. Click into this folder, and I can really see all those different markdowns files that are being handed over. And our approach currently is to take this into account using Copilot spaces as a basis for really implementing the logic of the actual case and take the front-end design and the usability principles out of it, user flows, users can do this and that in the application to inform our developers. This will actually be part of the next session on all the requirements that are needed to proceed with building the actual product. Just one time heading back to Figma, and it seems that we have like a stable version. We can see now that actually my prompt has been implemented. We also can see there are more products. I think there should be even more. Maybe that's an issue still with the database. But anyways, we can see that we have a cards view and we have a list view. So things can be compared maybe a bit more. We can see that the filters are really applying a reduction in results, and we can see the different sections here. We can have functional sliders and really narrowing down the results even more. Then we have a new contact button. This is also something that I prompted for, and let's see how this one is going. Interestingly, another image instead of mine has been chosen. Maybe there are different options. It made up a different of contact options here, also expertise levels. I can pick a slot, basically select the time, put in my name potentially, and then get an appointment potentially in my inbox, so I can really see or get into contact quite fast at this stage. There are different, I would say, improvements still to be made, but this is really then part of getting the detailed information from the experts, also from the end users, if they can be part of the actual workshop or afterwards with the user test, and really improve on this prototype. But as you can see, and this kind of wraps up our workflow for today, you are able to really build out a vision of relatively complex system or application relatively fast. And this would have required, I would say, weeks of preparation and building out the different things. And with this approach, it's really fast. You can iterate on many functions and on many inputs to really reach the goals. Turning to our final overview, I did this one already, push design to prototype. So let's have a look on the wrap-up points for today's session. I mentioned earlier that there are just 3 steps to this validated prototype approach, which is getting the context in, really asking all those important questions up front. Who are the target users? Which problem is to be solved? Which is the context? What are the user flows through the system? Then we're going to iterate like we did in just a small glimpse for the approach as of today. During a workshop that would be even longer. And then we're doing the actual report and also the sketching out of the implementation timeline and the different requirements for the architecture of the actual build. And this wraps it up. So we have the workshop documentation plus the interactive prototype at the end. We have the integration strategy, and we have the implementation roadmap as an outcome of this one. Thus, we have a code base, we have the different user flows defined sitting in GitHub, also with the user stories in place. So this is really a good starting point to further validate, to get stakeholder buy-ins, and to be fast with the next feedbacks to get from the actual users. With that, I think we have a couple of minutes open for questions. If you want to get further into this actual offering or to contact us about this approach, feel free to just navigate to our website. And for sure, don't forget to register for the upcoming webinars, which will be held a week from now and 2 weeks from now. With that, handing over to the actual questions section of our live Zoom. Having a look there. Are there any more questions? All right. No more questions? I'm not sure if you can unmute and just raise a question or just put them in the chat here. All Right, seems not to be the case for today's session. Also, just a little hint for the upcoming webinars. Those will be even more technical, just when things get really taken from today's session and being prepared for the implementation. So also make sure that you invite technical responsible person from your company if they are interested in how to take things further from the first prototype as shown today. Right? Just waiting. No, no more question. Then I'd like to say thank you again for your attention for today's session. Hope you liked it and hope you're joining for the upcoming webinars. And have a nice day. See you soon. Bye bye.